In this section of training, we'll be exploring the blending drill procedure. We'll offer some important background information, go over some critical tips for teachers, and do a brief demonstration of the procedure. In kindergarten, we prepare students for blending with oral activities such as phoneme blending. In this activity, the teacher says some sounds, d, a, g. The students put them together into the word the sounds make, dog. In most OG lessons, a blending drill immediately follows the visual drill. Just as the visual drill, the blending drill should be brief and take no more than 2 or 3 minutes to complete. The purpose of a blending drill is to apply the known sounds to decode syllables. In a blending drill, a majority of the patterns will be nonsense words. It is not an exercise in becoming accurate and automatic on nonsense or make-believe words. Instead, the purpose of this activity is to teach students to rely on their sound symbol knowledge to decode. This ensures that they're not simply recognizing words by sight. Thinking for just a moment about the importance of decoding unknown syllables, a majority of multisyllabic words are composed of nonsense syllables. Let's look at the word plastic at the bottom of the screen. This word is a 2-syllable word, plas-tic. Older students begin tackling longer words like plastic by reading each individual syllable and then putting them together to pronounce the word. So, by practicing reading syllables in the blending drill, we are also preparing students for when they are ready for multisyllabic words. Ultimately, in blending, we want students to be able to whole word read. When we talk about whole word reading, we're referring to the process of seeing letters as a unit and pronouncing them. Looking at the example on the screen, the pattern S-O-T, when read as a whole word, would be pronounced sot. The process of sounding the word out, s-a-t, and then blending it together, sot, is what we call sound-by-sound blending. Why is it so important to whole word read? Well, as students progress to more difficult words, base words with suffixes or multisyllabic words, or even one-syllable words with many phonemes, it's very difficult to support students to sound them out accurately. Taking a look at the example on your screen, if students stay in the stage of sound-by-sound blending, the words below would sound like this: s, t, r, I, p, s. It's often difficult for students to hang on to all of those phonemes in their head long enough to go back and blend those units together. If we can support students to see the pattern stripes, they will be more accurate and fluent decoders. Looking at the second example of the 2-syllable word, if students stay in sound-by-sound blending, they would decode the word as k, a, l, a, p, s, and hopefully be able to go back and retrieve the word collapse. This is not as effective as being able to whole word read, which would involve reading one syllable at a time, or cull-lapse, collapse. Pushing students to whole word read is an important stage in being able to progress to more difficult content. Just as in the visual drill, teacher and student placement is important. We encourage you to keep students in the meeting area seated as close as possible to the teacher. If the teacher has a blending board available, you'll find that displaying cards and card management is much easier. If a blending board is not available, a chalkboard ledge or pocket chart might come in handy. Think about the different piles of cards that have been discarded in a visual drill. Make sure that those cards in pile 0, which will contain visuals and other tools for reviewing concepts, are set aside. We will not use those in the blending drill. Pile 1 will contain cards in the initial position. Pile 2 will contain vowels. Pile 3 will contain cards in the final position. As you transition these cards from your lap or board to your blending board, make sure that they are in the right position from your student's perspective. In a blending drill, the teacher is the facilitator. The teacher should not be pronouncing the sounds and blending the syllables with the students. Instead, the teacher is going to provide visual supports and prompts so that students know when to respond. When we're doing a blending drill, our goal is to work through all of the vowels. It isn't critical to get through every consonant in the initial or final position. When students make mistakes in a blending drill, we simply draw attention to the pattern that they missed. If pointing to the card is not enough support for students to fix their mistake, we often provide supports through either visual cues, questions, or providing the keyword. We might make the short vowel hand signal, use your B checker, or say the keyword. When students have made a mistake on a card, we prefer to keep that card in place a little while longer to give the students additional repetition and practice with that pattern or card. I want to give you some more information to be aware of when placing your cards into piles. The information on your screen is for your benefit and not something we teach in kindergarten because of the complexity of the concepts. Let's take a look at the note at the bottom of the screen. This information explains some patterns to avoid when blending. In kindergarten, we focus on the k and g sounds for C and G. But when these letters are followed by an E, I, or Y, their sound changes to S and J. To help us with avoiding the patterns CE, CI, CY, GE, GI, GY, we have specific placing for these letters. First, the letter Y is always in the initial position, and E and I are always in the middle position. Next, put G in your final pile and C in your initial pile. This way, you're only having to watch out for the CE-CI patterns to appear on your board. When this happens, just change either the initial consonant or the vowel before blending. This takes us to the stages of blending. In Stage 1 in kindergarten, we begin with onset and rhyme blending, sometimes called word families. Blending two parts of a word tends to be easier for beginning readers versus blending individual sounds. Taking a look at the example of k-app, changing just the initial position would help students work through k-app, t-app, l-app. Stage 2 is sound-by-sound blending. Students say the sounds in isolation, s, a, t, and then go back and blend those sounds together to decode the syllable sat. We stay in this stage of blending for quite a while. If students find this too difficult, you may opt to include only two phonemes in the blending drill, the vowel and final consonant. Once students are successful with two, we can add the consonant in the initial position. Stage 3 is beginning dragging. In beginning dragging, we take graphemes with continuous consonant sounds and place them in the beginning position. Continuous sounds are sounds that we're able to hold on to and pronounce for an extended period of time until we run out of breath. Looking at the list, for example, the sound for the letter S, S. You can say that sound and drag it out as long as you need to. By placing these continuous sounds in the beginning position of our blending drill, we're able to model for students the process of dragging sounds together. What we're trying to accomplish is getting the student to hang on to one sound until they pick up the other one, and then finally pronounce the final sound. When this is done, we're modeling for students the idea of whole word reading that is continuous, and not the segmented pronunciation of sounds. What this would sound like with the same example would be sat. With that initial consonant being continuous, it supports our ability to hang on to it long enough to recognize and pronounce the vowel. Vowels are, by nature, continuous. Once we've pronounced this pattern, sat, we don't want to go back and pronounce the syllable again. It is our goal to quickly speed up that dragging process so that students don't have to hang on to those sounds for an extended period of time, moving from sat to sat. Stage 4 is intermediate dragging. Here, we no longer place only continuous consonants in the initial position. We use any consonant in the initial position and drag only the vowel sound in the middle position. Stage 5. When students are ready for whole word reading, simply slide your hand along the top of the cards as a visual for them to read the syllable. When students are in the whole word reading stage, they should simply pronounce the syllable each time a card is flipped. If students struggle to respond chorally, the teacher may opt to tap the top of the blending board as a visual to let students know that it is time to respond and read the syllable. In just a moment, you will have an opportunity to watch a brief video demonstration of a blending drill. To help understand what's occurring in the brief video, I'd like to review what's on the screen. At the top of the screen, you see a portion of training lesson number 3 from your lesson plan packet. On the left-hand side where it says Blending Drill, you'll see that cards are listed in recommended positions. In the video, pay attention to the pace in which the blending drill is delivered and how the teacher provides support to students when miscues or errors are made.
All right, are you ready to do our blending drill?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Z, vas. Ch, z, chas. Z, las. Sh, lash. Sh, lash. Sh, yash. Yat, yat. Yet. Ket. Wet. Wep. Nep. Oop. Nup.
Nice job.
Up. Hup. Us. Hus. Us. Just. Us. Fuss. Is. Fifth. Fid. Mid. Quid.
Beautiful. Let's do one more.
Quicks.
All right, you did a nice job. Thank you.
Your instructor will provide directions on blending drill practice with your partner. This concludes the Blending Drill Basic portion of training.